Some other prime examples of overharvesting in our human history was the bison. Their numbers used to be in the millions, 65 to 7 million in the Western Plains. And in the 1800s, we were down to in the thousands. And currently, we have regained, and we're at 500,000. And so that's a story of success. There are also stories of success we have to keep in mind. But unfortunately, this is right here a story, not a successful story, of the passenger pigeon. There were 5 billion of these birds that used to, in North America, that would fly the sky. And it's been said that that the birds could block out the light of day, and you would just look up and it'd be dark out. But they were easy targets once again, and they were in just 50 years of starting to hunt them, they were completely decimated, and we now have no more passenger pigeons. There's a video here if you'd like to watch that. It's a pretty interesting story. Now we come to plant and animal trade. In 1900, the Lacey Act was passed, and this was to deter the hunting of threatened animals. And so examples of organisms that we are protecting would be the rhino, and they have a horn of keratin, which is highly sought after. The elephant tusk, which is ivory, and surprisingly, the tiger penis, which is thought to have therapeutic value, but actually hasn't been proven in Asian cultures. And so to further ensure the longevity of our threatened species sites was established the United Nations Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Flora and Fauna. That's a mouthful. They created a red list, which is a list of threatened species that need to be required or that need to be protected, and makes it illegal to trade that animal or portions of that animal, like the rhino horn or the elephant tusk. And we found that the illegal trade in wildlife currently is between $5 and $20 billion per year. You have to understand that scarcity is valuable, that the less there is of a certain species, the more people want it, the more they'll pay for it. So here we have an example of the Philippine forest turtle, which is pretty adorable. And because it's so endangered, people in the United States will pay $2,500 for it, which is interesting. So we're moving towards pollution. Pollution can have harmful effects on animals, and there are many different types of pollution. We've talked about toxic contaminants, so in pesticides, those tend to be neurotoxins. Heavy metals like mercury and coal. When we burn coal, we release mercury into the atmosphere, and then that causes acid rain, which has harmful effects. And oil spills, something that we will need to talk about is the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill, which happened just a couple of years ago. So that affects a large portion of marine life, and there's also endocrine disruptors. Looking at BPA in plastics. So we looked at the amount of plastic in our oceans right now and the amount that we produce. And we have talked about microplastics and how even in our drinking water, there's plastic in there. And so to keep in mind that we have BPA showing up even in some of our drinking water because we can't filter the microplastics out. And nutrients create toxic algal blooms and cause eutrophication. And we also have thermal pollution, which if you think about nuclear power plants, they heat up water and in rivers. And so this is going to change the atmosphere or the environment in which organisms live. And so it could have negative impacts. And here's our last slide. Climate change is the last characteristic that we're going to talk about that can affect biodiversity. And so the concept with climate change is that the Earth has undergone changes in climate before, and we have had this much carbon dioxide in our atmospheres before. But the rate of change has never been so rapid, and so species need time to adapt. And if we remember that macroevolution, the formation of adaptations, takes thousands to millions of years. And so historically, changes in our atmosphere took millions of years. And so the parts of the world, the hotspots of diversity that are going to be impacted from this is going to be like the part of Australia that we talked about before with Perth and Kwanghan, where the shrublands here have nowhere to go because as the climate changes and the water becomes drier, or there becomes less water, it's surrounded on all sides by ocean and desert, and so this land, as it becomes drier, has nowhere to go. It can't migrate anywhere, and so it has 100 species in Kwanghan, or in this part of the world, have been examined, and it's estimated that about 66 species are going to, out of those 100, are going to decline, and of those 66, 25 of those species will go extinct because those species have nowhere to migrate. And that is all. And happily, our next PowerPoint, or our next lecture, is going to be about solving the problems instead of just looking at these problems, which can be kind of a bummer. Have a great day.